A story older than the Old Testament of deep division rooted in a heritage distorted by centuries of conflict. This is not just about two groups. It is a story woven into the fabric of Western civilization. We are talking about the Samaritans and the Jews. You may know the name Samaritan from the parable of the Good Samaritan. But who are they? What led to the long rift between them and the Jews? And why does their story still resonate today? This is a human story of family, faith, identity, and the lasting consequences of conflict. To understand the animosity, we must go back to the origins of the Kingdom of Israel around the 10th century BC. The 12 tribes were unified under one king, sharing a culture and faith centered in Jerusalem. This kingdom extended over much of modern Israel. But the unity was fragile. After Solomon and his death, the kingdom split into two. The kingdom of Israel in the north, comprising 10 tribes, and the kingdom of Judah in the south with Jerusalem, holding the remaining 2. This geographic and political separation set the stage for religious and cultural divisions. It was not sudden. It was a gradual dismantling. The northern kingdom of Israel around Shechem and Samaria began to develop its own religious customs. They did not abandon their heritage, but differences arose, amplified by political rivalry. These were not yet the Samaritans, but their ancestors. They considered themselves Israelites, worshiping Yahweh. They saw themselves as heirs to the covenant, but their practices differed from those of Jerusalem. Then the world changed. In 722 BCE, the Assyrian Empire conquered the northern kingdom of Israel. They sacked cities, destroyed temples, and deported a large part of the population. This was a critical turning point. The identity of the northern kingdom was thrown into turmoil. The Assyrians aimed to break down its national identity. The Assyrians relocated conquered populations, mixing them to weaken their cultural identity. They also settled people from other parts of their empire in the region. This created an environment of cultural and religious mixing. Over time, intermarriage and cultural exchange led to a distinct people, distinct from the Jews of the south. Those who remained, who began to be called Samaritans, retained elements of the Israelite faith, but incorporated other cultures and beliefs. This mixing became a point of contention for the returning Jews, who saw them as impure, having corrupted the proper worship of God. This perceived corruption became a catalyst for enduring rivalry. In the 6th century BCE, the southern kingdom of Judah, after its own conquest by the Babylonians and exile, began to return home. This return, led by figures such as Ezra and Nehemiah, was a turning point for the Jewish people. They were rebuilding not only their city and temple, but their identity. And in the north lived the people we now recognize as Samaritans. The returning Jews were committed to purifying their faith according to the strict laws of the Torah. They saw the Samaritans as having strayed from this pure faith. The Samaritans, who also worshipped Yahweh, saw themselves as the true Israel, the rightful heirs of the covenant. They hoped to be included in the rebuilding. This is where the conflict became entrenched. The returning Jewish leadership rejected the Samaritans' offers of help in rebuilding the temple in Jerusalem. They saw them as a mixed race, impure, and not true heirs. This rejection fueled a deep schism, a devastating moment for the Samaritans. Rejected by the Jewish community, the Samaritans established their own temple on Mount Gerizim near Shechem. This solidified their identity as a separate group. They developed their own version of the Torah, traditions, and priesthood. Their temple became a rival shrine, a direct challenge to Jerusalem. The Samaritans did not see themselves as heretics. They believed they were the true heirs of the Israelite tradition. Their version of the Torah differed. For example, they included a commandment to build the temple on Mount Gerizim. They placed emphasis on the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, the Torah, and less on the writings of the prophets. The establishment of Mount Gerizim created a lasting religious and political divide. Tensions solidified into deep antagonism. Samaritan identity and tension with the Jews became intertwined. The Hellenistic period brought new challenges. Greek culture spread throughout the region. Both groups navigated this differently, leading to greater estrangement. The Samaritans, situated between Greek cities and the Jews, were often caught in the middle. They sometimes aligned with Hellenistic powers, while the Jews resisted them, fueling more suspicion. Some Samaritans embraced Hellenistic culture while others tried to keep their own traditions intact, further complicating the political landscape. This period saw increasing conflict, deepening the divide. It was not just about religion, it was a struggle for power. The Samaritan became a symbol of perceived corrupt religion. The Roman Empire brought another layer. The Romans, although generally tolerant, manipulated local tensions. Under Roman rule, both the Samaritans and the Jews were subjugated. The struggle for power continued, but under Roman authority. It is within this historical context that the story of Jesus unfolds. The New Testament describes how the Samaritans and the Jews generally avoided each other. They saw each other as the other. This antagonism shaped Jesus' interactions with the Samaritans. The parable of the Good Samaritan is a powerful example, a radical statement about breaking down social barriers, recognizing the humanity in those whom society had taught him to despise. Jesus, in interacting with the Samaritans, was challenging social and religious norms and calling for a new understanding of community. The destruction of the Second Temple in Jerusalem by the Romans in 70 CE was another turning point. It had a profound impact on the Jewish people, but for the Samaritans, the focus on Mount Gerizim remained. This solidified the importance of Mount Gerizim in their religious identity. Throughout the centuries that followed, the relationship between Samaritans and Jews remained strained. They remained largely isolated, both adhering to their traditions and beliefs. The Samaritans faced periods of persecution and periods of prosperity during the Byzantine period and the early Arab conquests. Their status as a group that was neither Jewish, Christian, nor Muslim placed them in a precarious situation. The Samaritan community survived. They maintained their traditions, their unique form of worship, and their identity as the true heirs of the Israelite legacy. Today they number only a few hundred and live mainly near Mount Gerizim and in Holon. They observe the Sabbath, celebrate holy days, and perform ancient rituals. The high priest plays a vital role, and they maintain their own version of the Torah and a form of Aramaic. In recent years, there have been attempts at reconciliation. Despite deep historical wounds, there is a growing recognition of a shared heritage. While full reunification is unlikely, mutual understanding is growing. The story of the Samaritans and the Jews is one of identity, faith, and the consequences of division. It is a story that resonates in a world still struggling with conflicts rooted in religion and ethnicity. It is a reminder that differences need not breed animosity. We can learn from this ancient conflict about the fragility of unity, the importance of empathy, and how communities can maintain their identity under pressure. This story challenges us to reconsider how we see ourselves, to seek a shared heritage, and to work toward reconciliation. The enduring division between Samaritans and Jews teaches us valuable lessons about the human condition, lessons that remain relevant to us all.